Hello, I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
And I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times, sponsored this month by Valera. Proudly sponsored. Valera, formerly PSU Co-op Solutions. Valera, thank you, Valera. Historically, August has been a quiet month for news as congressional leaders get that much needed vacation or recess until after Labor Day. Good for them. For us normals, August has turned into a deadline heavy month as we prepare for the fall rollout of a bunch of new editorial items we've been working on, and we are knee deep, Natasha and I, in Luminaries Award season. So, my question is this: anyone want to be our intern, but with no pay or benefits or opportunities for traveling to industry events or lunch breaks? Any takers? No? No one? Okay. Let me sweeten the offer here a little bit. Anyone who wants to be our intern will get this a gently used free back scratcher I stole from my youngest son. I'll await your replies and applications, and I look forward to going through them. While I wait, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we are speaking with digital marketing author, speaker, and advisor, as well as the founder and CEO of the Digital Growth Institute, James Robert Lay. JRL, as I call him, and I had a great discussion about leadership and his new book, Baking on Change. We actually really peeled away a bunch of layers of the leadership onion that I was engrossed in. I really love this conversation, so stay tuned for that. First up, let's bring in Natasha. Hey, Ann.
Hey, Em. How's it going?
It's fine. It's
Yeah.
really okay. And I will say, I really did steal that back scratcher.
Oh, so you do have a
For,
back scratcher.
I do have a back scratcher.
I was thinking, I think maybe if we offered something just a little better than a back scratcher, maybe someone will take us up on that intern offer because we could really use
Maybe.
one.
I mean, they'll get a lot of experience. Don't
I
get me
mean, it's
wrong.
not a bad idea. Hey, we did unpaid internships in
We
college. Like,
did.
is that still a thing?
I don't think that crap flies
It
anymore.
doesn't fly anymore. Ah,
I
too
don't think
bad.
so.
That's too bad. I was thinking, hey, maybe that's not a bad idea. But
It's
yeah, I
not
don't
at
think so.
all. But I mean, if somebody accidentally, sends me a reply, I will love it. Send them that back scratcher.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you, Ann.
Yes. What is it?
This morning, this is very much true. This morning I was out on a walk and I was thinking about names. I think about names a lot for some reason.
Yeah.
But I was thinking on the walk this morning, like, what is the worst way in your history that somebody has mispronounced your last name?
I mean, it's just they kinda just will, like, stop. Like, they won't say anything because they don't even know how to start.
They don't even
You know,
try.
and then they just kinda give up. So, I don't know if it's a specific pronunciation of
Okay.
that they come out with that's
Uh
bad,
huh.
but more of like a giving up right away. But I know that my first name, there's ways people pronounce it that I hate, that they
Okay.
have in the past, like, what's one? Like Natasha or just a weird,
Ugh.
like, that just
Yeah.
sounds so awful, and I don't even like my grandmother was French,
Mhm.
all about my grandma, she lived to be
Yeah.
103.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But she would pronounce it like Natasha or like just some weird way, and I guess it was like a French pronunciation, but I don't know, for some reason it just, like, bothered me. I didn't like
Yeah.
the way it was said. So, yeah, I don't know. Thankfully, working remote and being home all the time, I don't really have anyone try to say my name, so I haven't had to deal with that in a long time.
I appreciate you sharing that because I didn't think about people just not even trying to
Oh,
pronounce
yeah.
it. So that's really fun.
That's what it usually is, yes.
Okay.
Be
All
glad you
right.
don't have to worry about that at all.
No, mine was always just growing up. Michelle
Michelle,
Ogden.
that's
Yeah, they call me Michelle a ton.
well, in French, again, go back to France, it's
Michelle.
Michel, yeah, and I actually
Yeah.
have at least one relative with that name, but yeah, it's a male name, but it's pronounced Michel.
Yeah, but I grew up in the Ozarks. French wasn't really a thing.
Not really? Yeah,
No, it
well
was just
well,
Michelle Ogden.
oh boy.
Okay. Anyway, but thanks for telling me that. I literally was thinking about that this morning, so I appreciate that story.
Sure.
Natasha, what have you been watching this past week?
Yeah, I so I've continued on the Letterboxd, as you
Mhm.
know, kinda tracking my movies.
Yeah,
One movie
it's
that
been
I
fun.
checked out it is fun. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of an under the radar app, and, yeah, they have
Uh-huh.
some really good lists on there, so, yeah, some good inspiration
Yep.
for the watch lists. But I was gonna bring up one movie, Tarot. It was a horror film from
Mhm.
I believe it was just done maybe a year or 2 ago.
Oh,
So and it came up on Netflix, so I
okay.
checked it out. Yeah, I had a good time watching it. It's kind of like, I mean, going into it, I had very low expectations because I've kind of haven't seen the recently. I feel like I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch this movie, and then I'm like,
Uh-huh.
why did I waste my time? This should be much better.
Oh,
But no, it's like a group of younger people staying in a creepy house, and then something awful happens and it's
okay.
haunted or whatever. So it felt like they just took that concept and were like, let's do it. Instead of with a creepy doll or with a Ouija board, we'll do it with tarot cards. And this time
Right.
the tarot cards are cursed and start killing people.
Huh.
But I thought it was kind of a fun concept. I've always been kind of fascinated by astrology and
Uh-huh.
tarot and things
Yeah.
like that. I was actually curious, I don't think I've ever asked you, have you ever had your tarot cards read or gone to any, like, psychics or fortune tellers in your life, or
It's a great question.
Yeah,
Short answer is no.
okay,
Longer answer is this. Even right before pressing record, we were actually talking about my allergies.
right.
I walked into a place to do that in New Orleans
Okay, great place for it, yeah.
years and years ago. But I walked in, and whatever it was they were burning or
Mhm.
sent me into an allergetic, just like
Oh,
sneezing fit. And so
hey,
I
that's
left.
they were trying to sage the place and cleanse it for you, but I
Well,
guess it didn't work.
yeah, apparently I was part of the problem. They cleansed me. I was out of there because I couldn't stop sneezing.
Okay. Aw, well,
It's all right.
apparently allergic to everything,
I
including
am.
psychics.
Uh,
Well, I don't think you're
Funny.
missing much, to be honest. It's
Okay.
kind of a silly,
You know what? Let's explore this topic in our Halloween episode.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I think we should follow up on it because
Okay.
I do have some thoughts and I do have some
I have a lot of
stories to
thoughts.
share of that. I will say I definitely am not into it now.
Uh-huh.
I did go to them, while I was
Uh-huh.
living in Los Angeles, and it's
Yeah.
very big there,
Yeah, yeah.
and go to these stores and buy one big thing with these candles, like these really tall
Mhm.
candles,
Right.
and then they have a certain word on it for whatever you're trying to manifest, and you have to leave it
Mhm.
burning all the time
Ugh.
until it burns all the way down, and then it would
Oh,
create some kind of a design.
okay.
If we just quick story, I just have to tell you one quick
Okay,
story, and then we'll
please.
move on. Okay, so I did one of these, I forgot what I was trying to wish for or whatever, but
Uh,
I don't remember, but I burned it all the way down, and then I brought it back in, and they were like, "Ooh," because then they will do a reading of it, like, however
sure.
it burned or the designs
Okay.
you made, it's like, "Here's your reading,"
Uh-huh.
and they were like, "Yeah, this doesn't look good. It looks bad. It's
Oh
all
my.
burned." But then I realized, "Oh, I was supposed to just leave it burning all the time, but instead I kept blowing it out and relighting it, and that's why it got all burned on the side." But then that turned into like,
Uh,
"Oh, something really bad is gonna happen because you have a burned
oh,
vessel here that
okay.
you brought."
Oh, interesting.
It's like
I had no idea. Okay.
yeah. Thankfully, nothing really happened that I can recall that was that tragic that particular year, so I think that was an incorrect fortune, but anyway,
I didn't know psychic rules. That's very interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Anyway, well, let's move on.
Sure.
It sounds like you had a to kinda go along with our metaphysical discussion here, a
Sure.
philosophical discussion
We
with
did. We did.
James Robert Lay that made you
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
I'm sorry that you weren't able to join us because how do I say this? We just kind of kept digging
Yeah.
on some issues about leadership. We even talked about therapy. And
Oh, wow.
I was like, dude, I could talk to you for another 2 hours about this. But anyway,
That
we had a
sounds
great time, and I
great.
sorry
Yeah.
scheduling whatever you weren't able to make it for it, but it was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, no, no.
Oh, I would love to have taken part in that. Yeah, sorry I wasn't able to make it, but I did, listen to the recording, and
Yep.
yeah, it was definitely interesting, and you 2 had it sounded like a very honest discussion about
Hmm.
credit union leadership, and you also talked about his new book, Banking on Change,
Hmm.
and as you said, you even spent some time getting into some philosophical layers of credit union leadership, and I thought it was really revealing, and it kinda peeled back some ideas for me about leadership in
Yeah.
general and gave me kind of something to think about as we start looking to the future of some of the credit union leaders out there that we
Hmm.
cover. So I thought that was really neat. So, yes, we have all of that and more coming up next.
Hey, listeners, this episode is sponsored by Valera, formerly PSU and Co op Solutions. Valera, the nation's premier payments credit union service organization and an integrated financial technology solutions provider, Valera serves more than 4,000 financial institutions throughout North America, operating with velocity to help its clients keep pace with the rapid momentum of change and fuel growth in this new era of financial services. Valera, check them out. Joining me in the virtual studio today is digital marketing author, speaker, and advisor, as well as founder and CEO of the Digital Growth Institute, James Robert Lay. James, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Michael. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
I've been looking forward to this for a bit now. So, first off, James, you have been in and around the credit union space for a long time, and I say that lovingly.
Yes.
What was it about the financial industry that hooked you and has kept you interested?
If I go all the way back, it was a dark, stormy Thursday night that I would say the industry found me. It's not a joke. It's not hyperbole.
Okay.
It's the truth. It was really a dark, stormy Thursday night. I was at the University of Houston Clear Lake, and
Okay.
Thomas Hast was the VP of marketing at JSC Credit Union at the time.
Mhm.
And this was maybe 2002, 2003. And he said, "We're looking to get our website redesigned and redeveloped. Can you help us out?" I had a booth at a table at the American Marketing Association. I was a student, but I
Yeah.
also had a business.
Okay.
And we reconnected a couple of weeks later. And JSC was my first credit union. They're now Welby Credit Union.
Mhm.
But that was my foray into this. And I saw at the time, I didn't know anything about credit unions. I was completely clueless. But
Yeah.
once I got in and saw the potential and the philosophy of people helping people and the ability to truly transform people's, not just their financial lives, but really their lives, their families,
Mhm.
it gave me a bigger future to work towards for myself by helping
Mhm.
credit unions give people in the communities they serve a bigger future to work for themselves.
So when you started off the answer with it was a dark, stormy Thursday night, I thought you were doing some sort of Edgar Allan Poe thing. So I appreciate the story of that,
Yeah.
kind of the origins. We're going to talk about your newest book, Banking on Change, and what it takes to be an effective credit union leader in this moment in history. But I want to pull out a little wider and take a bigger look and ask you this question first. How do you see this industry's effectiveness right now?
I see there's room for growth. There's room to be even better. If I go back of being in the vertical for 21
Hmm.
years at this point, it's interesting how some of the story, some of the narrative hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And in fact, we see consolidation. We see fewer number of credit unions. And some could argue, well, that's a good thing. Some could argue that's a bad thing. I look at this as this is not about us as credit unions. This is about the members and the members that we can create value for. We'll call this relevancy
Okay.
because 20 years ago, the competitive landscape, if you will, was vastly different
Mm,
than what it is today. Fintech did not even exist for the most part 20 years ago.
yeah. Now let's dive into some of the elements you covered in your book, Banking on Change. I was able to breeze through a good chunk of it in the last few days. You have a chapter devoted to leadership,
Yeah.
resulting in what you say is exponential growth. What do you mean by that?
Exponential growth that I define in the book is when, as a leader, first and foremost,
Mhm.
you perceive that you are growing both personally and professionally at the same exact time.
Okay.
That exponential growth as a leader can then spill over into the team that you're leading. So those that are a part of your team, they now perceive that they are growing both personally and professionally at the same exact time. And the reason that this is important, particularly as we're moving through a period of not just change, but exponential change, personal and professional growth are intertwined. That was one of the greatest lessons that I took coming out of the pandemic was what is impacting us personally is going to impact us professionally. What is impacting us professionally is going to impact us personally. Instead of separating the two worlds, I see an opportunity, particularly for leaders for themselves, but then for their teams that they're leading as well,
Mhm.
to integrate the two, personal and professional growth together, and as a result, achieve exponential growth.
Yeah. Well put. The pandemic taught us a lot, and that is
Yes.
I think, a very astute observation there. So, diving down this road a little bit further, how can a credit union CEO, or really anybody in a credit union leadership position, cultivate growth internally and externally?
Well, that growth is going to begin within first and foremost. It's
Okay.
going to begin with them as the leader. All transformation that leads to future growth starts with the self. And then from the self, as I mentioned before, it moves to the team, from the team to the organization, because teams are made up of individuals and organizations are made up of teams.
Mhm.
But growth begins first when we just simply tell the truth about where we've been, about where we're at right now, and then about where we can go forward into the future, not as individuals, but collectively together as a team, as an organization. But it all comes down to, are we being honest
Yeah.
with ourselves about where we've been, about where we are, and about where we can go next? And that's a hard question to A, ask, but then to B, answer.
I agree with that, and I wanna expand on that just a hair here because, 1, I agree with that, but I feel like I would flip it. I think it's harder to answer than to ask.
Mm.
And do you feel like that might be something that just leaders aren't asking, those 2 questions?
Maybe not asking, but definitely afraid to answer.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And maybe even more deeply than that, answer truthfully.
Mhm.
Because once again, if we think about all of the changes that we've experienced, not just since the start of this decade with 2020, because if you go back to early 2020, when we started, it felt like that was just going to be another year, new
Yeah.
decade, just another year. We could not perceive all of the changes that we would experience and are and will continue to experience through this decade. I remember in a podcast back in 2020, I said, listen, buckle up, Buttercup, because this decade is just going to be a bumpy ride. And
Mhm.
it's not me being negative. In fact, I really try to work with leaders to maintain a positive mindset,
Yeah.
because mindset is so critical to navigate tough and turbulent times. And I understand there's a lot of leaders right now that are feeling very tired,
Yeah.
but my perspective, which is really the sum of context and framing, my perspective is, Michael, is different than your perspective, is different than others' perspective.
Mhm.
It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of what we're seeing. And what I'm seeing, if we go back to 1994, the it wasn't the birth of the internet, but it was the internet reaching the mass consciousness of humanity. If we go back to
Mhm.
1994 to 2024, 30 years, now we have a much bigger perspective, context framing of time, and all the changes that have happened over just the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Take that, trend that out, enter November 30th, 2022, with AI reaching the mass adoption of humanity through the launch of ChatGPT, which, by the way, went from 0 to 100 million users in 2 months.
Yep.
That curve of change and transformation at the macro level, technology, competitive landscape, consumer beliefs and behaviors, well, that is going to directly impact us on the micro level within the credit union vertical.
So let's go into this a tad further again in talking about the complexities of leadership in the digital age in what we're living in right now. And you're framing this lovely. I can't tell you how well you've set this up. How can or should a credit union leader lead
Mm.
in this incredibly fast moving environment of digital payments, mobile bankings, responding quickly to members' needs?
It's a great question. And one of the frameworks I provide in the book is the 90-day growth methodology.
Hmm.
We must review where we've been. I think about when I have facilitated workshops over the past 6 months and even over the past couple of months since publishing the book. I encourage a leadership team and even boards of directors. We take them down this timeline from 1994 to today. And I ask them within the first 5 minutes,
Yeah.
how old were you in 1994? And it's funny because you start to see people squirm in their seats a little bit and they
Hmm.
laugh and a little bashfully. I said, listen, this is not about age. This is about how old you were in 1994, because how old you were in 1994 is directly going to influence how you perceive the world today.
Hmm.
And I remember being at a conference last summer. I was doing the keynote there and I was working at the bar, just some final tweaks on the deck.
Hmm.
And there were two gentlemen that were sitting next to me. One was 80, one was 85, both on the boards of their credit unions. One was on the board for over 50 years.
I'm not shocked to hear that, but yes.
We had a great conversation. because I asked them, I said, "Do you mind if I join your conversation?" Because what they were talking about was super fascinating.
Mhm.
And they kindly let me into their discussion. We ended up talking for about an hour, hour and a half.
Okay.
One of the things, though, that struck me, their perspective, their context and framing of time was vastly different than mine because
Sure.
one of them in 1994, I believe he said he was 50, 55 back then.
Mhm.
And I said, wow, what was life like when the internet was coming online? His words to sum him up was disbelief. Like, this is just a fad. Our credit is never going to get on mobile banking. That's dangerous. That we can't
Right.
trust that. And I said, well, how do you feel now, 30 years later? And he looks down in the bar and he picks up his phone and he goes, I now log onto our mobile banking app. I go, really? And I go, well, now imagine doing all of that, but increase the speed and the speed of change. And he
Yeah.
goes, well, it's a good thing I'm not going to be around for that much longer.
Oh god. A little dark answer, but
It
okay.
was.
But it's the truth, you know?
Yes. But here's the thing, though. And to me, this is a concern that I have.
Mhm.
If that is the belief of leadership, if that is the belief of the board, then we should be concerned
Oh, yeah.
because the way that we perceive the future right now in the present moment is going to directly influence our thoughts, actions, decisions that we make going forward to create that future.
Right.
And we use a tool that I created about 18 months ago called the Future Growth Index.
Okay.
And it asks 3 different questions. When you think about the future at a macro global level, do you look at this through the lens of hope, abundance, future's going to be better than it is today? Or do you look at it through a lens of perhaps scarcity, like your best days are behind you? And then
Mhm.
we go from the macro level and we say, when you think about the future of your organization, of your credit union, do you look at it with hope and optimism or do you look at it with negative scarcity? And then we go from there into the team. Same question. When you think about your team, do you look at it hope and optimism or you look at it through scarcity and negativity? And what I'm finding, and we've got hundreds of answers at this point to where it's really creating a unique narrative, is many leaders are stuck in what I call the zone of uncertainty. They're
Mhm.
not truly growth bound. They might be trending more toward the growth gap, and the gap is where they gripe about problems. Well, the thing is if we go back 20, 30 years, were we griping about problems back then? Problems just continue to change. As a
Yeah.
result, we must continue to change as leaders. And our
Absolutely.
perspective is going to directly influence our belief, is going to directly influence our behavior going forward. Mindset is the key.
Yeah. The prediction of or the thought of the internet by the gentleman at the bar
Mm.
reminds me that's probably what I thought of breakdancing in 1982, you know? That's not gonna last. But I love that you had that conversation because I always feel bad for an older generation with the rapid change that we saw, like you're pointing out in the mid-90s to the smartphone. I'm like, grandparents and parents are like, I'm not gonna keep up with this, it was too much.
Yeah.
But let's talk about kind of somebody you've seen maybe that has grasped the requirements needed to lead in this digital time. What are they doing right? And I think you've already hit on some of that.
They take a Socratic approach to life, meaning in the way Socrates defined knowledge is and wisdom specifically is I know nothing. And we could definitely tie a Star Wars reference in here because one of the things that Yoda taught Luke was you must unlearn what you have learned.
Hmm.
And it comes back to the point of you were just mentioning as someone of an older generation having to navigate the complexities of change and transformation. I don't think it's completely impossible if you let go of what you know,
Hmm.
you detach from what you do, because in essence, if we think about, once again, the context of time, what people do today and the way that they fulfill their roles and responsibilities is definitely different than what it would have been back in 1994.
Hmm.
And as we're moving further into this age of AI and artificial intelligence, if we attach so tightly and cling to our identity as to, well, this is what I do, this is who I am, it's going to be challenging. And I'm very empathetic to that fact. I, for one, I share a lot of personal stories and anecdotes of just my own experience in banking on change and the changes and the transformations that I've gone through. I'm not going to say every single one of them, they were easy at the time. And I'm going
Hmm.
through massive change and transformation right now as we're speaking because I'm always working to challenge my own belief system because I know that if I fail to do that, particularly now moving into this whole age of AI,
Hmm.
it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very difficult. So I would say number one, leaders that are successfully might be too strong of a word, but they're committed.
Okay.
They're committed to navigate the complexities of change, of turbulent times. They're letting go of what they know. They're being a curious kindergartner once again. They're measuring the progress that they're making every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year. Because as the perception of technology or time accelerates because of technology, we can get to the end of a day, end of a week, end of a month, end of a quarter, end of a year, and like, what did we do?
Hmm.
What progress did we make? And unless we're honoring and addressing that, then that's going to create a negative impact on ourselves and our teams.
Yeah.
And I see this firsthand because one of the very first questions that I ask teams when I'm working with them and leaders is, what's been going well for you? What's good? And recently, a couple of the responses that I've received of, well, it would have just been easier if you asked me what's not been going well. And I go, well, it's a tough place to be. Let's
Yeah.
just for a moment, let's shift out of that. Tell me, and well is an acronym. Where have you been winning? What are you excited about right now?
Yeah.
So winning's the past, exciting is the present. What are you energized about? What have you learned of the past and the present? So connecting some dots, connecting some learnings. And then most importantly, what are you looking forward to into the future?
Yeah.
So measuring progress is another practical activity that leaders can take when navigating exponential change.
So we speak to many credit union leaders on the pod about being agile and responsive to the members. And what you're digging into, I think, is it's like a layer of the earth that just doesn't want to be dug up by a lot of people. And so I love
Yeah.
that you're not only bringing up Socrates and Star Wars in one answer, but you're bringing up, again, levels of thought, of measured existence that needs to be analyzed. And in your book, you wrote about how being an agile leader can be actually a competitive advantage. Explain that idea, will you?
When we think about change and transformation, speed once again,
Hmm.
being able to pivot, we'll use the context of the COVID experience here. When COVID happened, I think of one credit union marketing leader that I had been working with at that point for probably 5 years. And this individual, brilliant, great strategic planner, great strategic thinker. When the world shut down, went into panic, almost
Yeah.
just couldn't operate because the plan that they had for 2020 was out the window. They didn't know, couldn't perceive what to do next. And I said, listen, first and foremost, let's just take a breath here because
Hmm.
you're not alone. Everyone else is going through this same experience right now. And instead of thinking about the horizon being this entire year, let's just throw that out
Yeah.
and let's just focus on the next week. And we got to the next week, let's focus on the next month. And then the next month, let's just get to the 90-day horizon. And it's that 90-day period of time that have been really encouraging leaders to operate around because every 90 days they can go through a cycle, navigate through 4 seasons, if you will,
Hmm.
of learning, thinking, doing, and reviewing. And as one takes a journey through those 4 seasons every 90 days, exponential growth will be the result. Building the habit to go through that, that's where the challenge lies. And if you don't mind, because now I'm the curious kindergartner because you said something, because you once
Yeah.
again you have perspective. Can you go back and resurface your perspective of we're digging deeper into other layers of the earth that we typically don't dig into?
Hmm.
I'm curious to get your take on that because I have some perspective and I don't want to make an assumption, but you have conversations, you see things that I'm not seeing. Can you circle back and share that for me? Because I might want to add something to that point here in just a bit.
Well, speaking in general, not calling anybody out specifically, but there is a general thought of listen, we can't deal with this now. I can deal with this now.
Right.
And a lot of blame gets put on regulators, a lot of blame gets put on competitors instead of looking internally. And this
Mm,
is where therapy comes in, honestly. And I love therapy. And
yeah.
there is a resistance to specifically thinking about what you are thinking and believing and feeling. And they can't seem to really want to dig that up. It's just like a traumatic childhood. I don't want to talk about it. It gets put in a bucket I wish wasn't that bucket. And there's just a resistance to refusing to dig
Mm.
and come up with a real solution. They just want to see, okay, what's next? Who's telling me what to do? Okay, fine. Instead of ever dealing with the problem. That was my general thought there.
I'm glad you referenced that
Mm.
because I see the same thing.
Hmm.
I see it working directly with leaders and teams. We also saw it with the research when writing Banking on Change. The fact that we'll just say 70 to 80% of leaders, and I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but 70 to 80% of leaders within financial services, and this is primarily credit unions and community banks,
Mhm.
invest 1 to 2 hours or less in their personal development per week. Now, the vast majority, we'll call it 50, 51%, 52%, it's less than 1 hour per week.
Mhm.
And in a period of exponential change and transformation, learning is key. And to say that you're too busy or that you don't have time for this, it's an excuse,
Sure.
but it's an excuse that's going to eventually, you'll have to pay in one way or another. And so education is an investment. The idea of not wanting to dig into the deeper aspects of what we'll frame as metacognition, thinking about your thinking,
There you go.
it's made me question, honestly, a lot of my own purpose in the vertical. Because
Interesting.
if we don't address these deeper questions, is the future just going to be the predictable past based upon the decisions that we're making in the present moment?
It's a really good question, and I have an answer, but it'll make a lot of people mad.
Well, it starts by telling the truth, Michael.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's a hierarchy that doesn't want change, you know?
Sure.
And that's kind of a simple, dumb statement, I guess. But the refusal to look at that and look at all the things you're saying that should be thought about and talked about and discussed really applies to life. You know, exercising, eating right, blah 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 blah. You will get ramifications, positive or negative, how you're doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So I love this topic.
Well, let me share an alternative perspective.
Please.
I've been an entrepreneur for 21, 22 years since starting this business.
Hmm.
You talked about therapy. 2012, my marriage was on the line.
Hmm.
I'd been married for about 6 years at that point. We just had our second child, and my wife had a hard conversation with me saying it's the business or the family. Because the business at the time in 2012 was just on fire. People from the outside were like, man, you're just doing a tremendous job. You're everywhere. I was a mess on the inside. I
Right.
didn't know how to handle quote unquote early success. And so I called an outside advisor in who had the hard conversations with me. And it was tough because I think a lot of times as leaders, we get stuck in the bottle that we can't read the label.
Right.
And we do need the outside perspective, the objective perspective that we just simply can't see what we can't see. And there's the saying, it's not what you don't know will kill you, it's what you don't know. And so in 2012, I got into therapy, started doing a lot of work on myself, the hard questions, and still doing that today, 14 years later.
Great.
Learned a lot, but have grown a lot from that and don't regret a minute of it. Got into some entrepreneurial coaching programs, even working with alongside other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
The difference that I see between entrepreneurial leadership and credit union leadership can be distilled down to the work of Carol DeWitt, growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And what I see with entrepreneurial leadership is they're not afraid to dig deep and to ask the hard questions.
Hmm.
Credit union leadership, back to your point, there's definitely some resistance there for sure. And it's my goal with this book
Yeah.
is to begin to at least open up that conversation.
I love your honesty. I love your vision here and what your book is laying out. And we're coming up on time here, and I want to be cognizant of that for your day and everybody's time. But one more question here, talking about the tough questions, the tough things to think about. Do you have any advice for a leader who is trying or tasked with transforming an organization to achieve exponential growth? Do you have anything you would give them?
First and foremost, and there's a framework from the book. There's a lot of mental models in this book,
Hmm.
and there are a lot of acronyms because it's the only way that this ADD mind can actually remember things to help other people.
I got it.
The question is how do you want to grow? First and foremost, just as a leader, as an
Yeah.
individual. Don't worry about your team. Don't worry about your organization for a minute. I see a lot of leaders who are frustrated
Hmm.
and in reality would probably be better off on another adventure.
Hmm.
They're doing more harm than good. And I asked them, listen, how do you want to grow? Grow is an acronym. What are your goals? First and foremost for yourself.
Yeah.
And I called this the coffee and cocktail conversation. Imagine if we're having a conversation and it's a year from now. What are we drinking? Are we drinking coffee or cocktails? And they'll respond one or the other. I said, fantastic. Drinking coffee, good. I'm having an Americano with you. I want you to take a sip of your, let's just say cappuccino, And I want
Sure.
you to look back to this conversation today and tell me everything that has transpired for you between now until then for you to feel good about your own journey of growth. Just as an individual, don't even worry about your team or organization. And based upon how they respond or don't respond to that question is
Mhm.
very telling. If they struggle with that, there's work to be done. There's clarity to be gained because it's the lack of clarity that holds us back from unlocking new layers and new levels of growth. So
Mhm.
first we got to get really clear into what our goals are to begin with from a future state. Then let's come back to the present. We got that clarity. Fantastic. Let's come back to the present. What are the roadblocks that stand in the way? That's the R of grow. What are the roadblocks that stand in the way? And then finally, because when we get clarity of the roadblocks, we know what could take us off track. And we might not know everything, but a lot of leaders I see don't really think about roadblocks until they come across them, until they're
Mhm.
tripping on them.
Agreed.
Let's surface those early and often. And then finally, roadblocks or obstacles, they're really just opportunities in disguise. And so the last question, the O, is what are the opportunities to move beyond those roadblocks, to work around them, to go over them, to move under them, that you're continuously making progress towards your goals for growth.
Mhm.
And then once you get clarity on that for what you want as a leader, then we can start talking about your team. You can take that question to your team members. It's interesting how many leaders don't really know what their team even wants
Mhm.
individually, professionally, personally, professionally. And when we can help people achieve personal growth, professional growth is going to be the outcome. And we can help people achieve professional growth, personal growth is going to follow. And that leads to the exponential growth that we started this conversation off with.
Excellent. James, this is the final segment of our interview that we're going to move into right now. Okay. And it's all about you. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. First up, James, where were you born?
Houston, Texas.
Born and raised?
Born in Houston, raised in Deer Park and Pasadena.
Okay. I do have to ask something. Coming from the South myself, Arkansas,
Mm,
a three name thing is a thing.
yes.
One, I wanted to ask, did you always go by James Robert Lay, or was that something you decided later?
No. So my first name is James Robert, and my middle name
Okay.
is William. My dad's name is Robert William Lay, and I am
Ro-
James Robert William Lay. So I have two
Got it.
first names. And I'm going to tell you, that has haunted me since I was a kid. Growing up in the 80s, because there was 10 characters on the Scantron first day of school,
There you go.
it would always get shoved together. So first day of school, it was James Robe.
There you go.
It's James Robert. So I literally have been dealing with that since I was a kid.
Oh my gosh.
And our oldest son, his name is Ludwig, Ludvic. And I remember my mom, who was a teacher, she was giving me and my wife a hard time. Kids are gonna make fun of his name. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Do you forget what you named me and the struggles that I went with through growing up?
Right.
But no, Ludwig's great. And
Oh, that's
his
an
name
awesome
is,
name.
yeah, and his no one has ever made fun of his name. It's just funny in the
Great.
context of things.
Can you do an impression of your mom or dad yelling at you with all the names?
I'm not gonna yell,
Okay, not yell.
but it would be if I was in trouble, it
Yeah.
would be it would be my mom specifically. It would be James Robert William with a lot more oomph behind it, but it was always the three names when I was in trouble.
Fantastic. Same here. Mine was more with the southern drawl. Michael Gene Ogden. Jesus himself would be upset right now. That's how
Oh
that was.
man, we need to have more conversations, dude.
We do. Off the top of your head, then, talking about the Houston metro area, which I love, what's kind of a silly piece of trivia about that area?
Two fun facts. Number
Okay.
one, Deer Park, Texas
Yep.
is the birthplace of Texas, where Texas won its independence from
Okay.
Mexico, Battle of San Jacinto. And then the other, I'd say more quote unquote modern fact is in Pasadena, Texas, on Spencer
Yeah.
Highway, was a honky tonk named Gillies,
Gillies.
which was the storyline of Urban Cowboy with John Travolta and the first Mechanical Bull. So the story behind that story, my
Yeah.
wife was born in 1982.
Okay.
And the night that she was born, her mom and dad had gone to Gillies for some political event. And
Okay.
dad ends up having a little bit too much whiskey to drink that night, ends up
Right.
dancing with another woman. And she was number 4 in line, my wife, but she's 4 out of 6 kids. Her mom wasn't so happy about that.
Sure.
Tells her husband, I'm having this baby tonight and you're not going to be there. Sure enough, he sobers up real quick.
Oh
And
my gosh.
my wife was born and came out with that same type of fiery attitude.
My grandparents used to go down to Gillies,
Oh
and I
my
used to have
gosh.
Gillies t-shirts when I was a kid.
Yes.
Never got a chance to go.
Yeah. They have Gilly's beer now on tap. I saw
They
somewhere
do.
recently.
James, what was the first job you ever had as a kid, teenager, college?
Space Center, Texas.
Oh,
Got
okay.
hired at a career fair.
Yeah.
Was hired to take pictures and put people on Mars and the moon with the green screen. This is back in probably 1997, 98. So
Yeah.
using early green screen technology,
Yeah. Yeah.
and went through 2 weeks of training. Was so excited to get started. I got my jumpsuit, went
Yeah.
out on the floor, and then they put me on the register. I'm like,
What?
I didn't train for this. And I do remember from
Yeah.
my training that if I was like 10 cents off or something from the till
Yeah.
3 days in a row or something, I'd get fired. And I was like 17 and I didn't know what I was doing. So I quit
Oh.
and ended up getting a job like the very next day at San Jacinto College, working in the maintenance department, painting parking
Oh.
lot stripes in the heat of the summer in Houston.
We had similar childhoods, I think. We do need to talk, but I love
Yes,
that space camp thing. James, did you go to prom?
I did.
Do you remember what the theme was?
I don't.
Oh.
I don't.
Do you remember your date? What year would that have been?
It'd have been 2000. I was turn of the century graduate.
Okay.
So 2000. My date, her name was Heather Ludicky,
Okay.
high school
Yeah.
girlfriend. My wife and I, we went to the same high school too. And I told her, I was like, you went with the wrong guy and I went with the wrong girl.
Well, hi, Heather.
Yeah.
You're doing well. Okay, James, what was the first album you ever bought or remember listening to?
First album, MXPX. It was
Oh, there
a
you go.
punk band out of the
Yeah.
Northwest, Birmingham, Washington, actually.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was probably like
90.
94,
Yeah,
90,
sounds right.
93, 94.
What was the last movie you watched?
Last movie. Actually, fun fact on the MXPX.
Please.
Saw them in Houston. They came to
Oh,
Numbers. And the crazy thing, the opening band for them
yeah.
was a band that many might know, at least you're of the genre and the era. Good Charlotte. Good Charlotte opened
Sure.
for MXPX at this small little club. And my friend and
Yeah.
I went to Taco Cabana
Mm.
across the street and ended up having tacos with Joel and Benji from Good Charlotte.
You have said a whole sentence that really encapsulates the 90s.
Yes,
So thank you for that.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, movie. What was the last one you watched?
It was with the kids.
Yep.
We sat down and watched, well, we're halfway through episode 7 of Star Wars. It's
Okay.
fun getting to, I mean, Star Wars, I was a kid of the 80s growing up watching 4, 5, and 6. And then I don't know
Right.
what they were thinking with 1, 2, 3 was good,
Sure.
but 7, 8, and 9, it's fun getting to share that with the kids.
Oh, that's great. I should maybe revisit those. It's been a long time. Last real question. One, you got a podcast, you got a book. Where can people find you and connect with you, James?
LinkedIn is the
Okay.
best place to connect with me, or just go to jamesrobertlay.com
Okay.
and connect with me there. But LinkedIn is the best place, always active, always looking to meet growth-minded leaders who are looking to help their teams navigate the complexity of change.
Fantastic. James Robert Lay, founder, CEO of the Digital Growth Institute and author of his latest book, Banking on Change. James, thank you so much for joining us today. This was really, really good.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. For our listeners, please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, you know how it works. If you want to rate us, we'd love your feedback. For those of you with questions or comments, feel free to email Natasha over at nchillingarian@cutimes.com or myself at mogden@cutimes.com. Also, thank you to Valera for sponsoring the podcast this month, formerly PSU and Co-op Solutions. Valera, you guys are awesome. Thank you. And thank you so much to our producer today, Geoff Metz. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.